Hello. Welcome to pro tip number 67, populating your Jira custom fields with Lansweeper Asset Schema data. Now, if you're watching this video, there's a good chance you've already either set up our Lansweeper Assets integration to Jira Service Management, or you built your own integration to bring Lansweeper data into Jira Service Management Assets. So it's great that we've got this capability to populate asset data and synchronize it from Lansweeper to Jira Service Management Assets. But in this pro tip, I'm going to take you through some simple ways to start improving the agent experience in JSM. So we want to unlock this asset data to be used in our Jira work items, whether that be an incident, a request, problem, or change. Here's a couple examples of some custom fields that are leveraging that data from the asset schema that we created through our integration. I can see the asset, I can see some details here, and I can even see a similar field on the right-hand side of the screen. Now here's the reporter assets, and here's the affected assets. And we're going to look at these two custom fields today to give you an idea of how easy it is to make this possible in your instance with your Lansweeper data. So the first thing I want to take you through is our affected assets custom field. So right now, this is a very basic custom field in my JSM instance here. So what we've done is we've created a custom field that's of the assets type. And we've looked at the object schema of LSV2, which is the asset schema that contains my Lansweeper synchronized data. So you'll notice here that on this current iteration of this custom field, that's really all the configuration I've done. My filter scope AQL is blank. My filter issue AQL is blank. And I've done a few little things down here by having my display and search and my attributes populate with name, manufacturer, and model. And I'm also allowing multiple objects to be stored in this field. Now, if we go back to look at my schema itself, right now this is going to display potentially anything inside of our object types that came from Lansweeper. So a lot of customers I work with say, Kevin, that's great. We've got 10,000 assets we've synchronized, but I need to filter my fields to only show specific ones. And that's what we're going to do here. Let's make some modifications to my filter scope. So one of the first things you do with a custom field in JSM Assets is you want to start narrowing down your focus and populate the field with maybe only a few select things. So one of the most basic things to do is to filter by the object type itself, and filter scope is how we would do that. So the syntax is pretty straightforward. It's called AQL, the assets query language. So what we're going to do is we're going to type object type, and then we're going to go equal sign. And then we're going to pick on one of our object types from our schema. And for now, I'll just pick on Windows as our example. Now, notice how it was a red X and then it auto-changed to a checkbox. That's doing a basic syntax check to make sure my syntax is correct. It doesn't guarantee you're going to get the data you want, but it guarantees you the syntax matches what Atlassian requires. So it's your first check to make sure that you're good here. Now, if we go back and look at that schema to confirm, we do see that Windows is valid. So if we come back here and save, we should be all good. So what we've done there is we've taken a very, very easy use case, and now we have our particular field here, affected assets, only showing objects that are in that Windows object type. So that's one of the first basic things you can start doing in your configuration is looking at a single object type. Now, your use case might be a little different. Maybe you're telling me, hey, Kevin, wouldn't it be great if we could have a custom field that shows all of our end user devices, whether that be a Windows laptop or an Apple MacBook or maybe an Android device, right? So I want a field that shows only those types of devices. Well, that too is possible inside of the custom fields. We just need to modify the way in which we do our filter issue scope. So what I'm going to do here, we're going to keep the object type, but we're going to change the equal sign. We're going to change this to an N. And right now it's going to be object type Windows. I would do a comma, and then I would do another open parentheses here, and I'm going to do Apple Mac is my next one. But it's still showing me as that red X, meaning the syntax is still not quite right. So what you need to do here is put some parentheses around these two values to make that happy, and then double check that our Apple Mac is a valid object type, and in fact it is. And I would do the same thing and then with other things like Android devices or really any other object type that we have coming from Lansweeper over to Jira Service Management. I could do that here. We would hit save, And now our custom field for affected assets is only going to show devices that appear in the Windows or the Apple Mac object schema. So there's one quick example of how you can start filtering that down. But there's another use case, right? So if we come over back to our incident, notice how I had two fields. I had reporter assets and I had affected assets. We've just now effectively limited affected assets to only showing Windows devices and Apple Macs, but reporter assets is a little bit different. I want to show you this configuration because it's ones that a lot of customers struggle with. If we go to our custom field here and take a look at the values here, we'll do edit assets. Let's look at the context here. This one's a little bit different. So we're still looking in this Lansweeper version 2 asset schema that I set up, but notice how my filter issue scope is blank, indicating there can be any object type or anything in the schema. But something here is a little bit different. I've populated some AQL syntax in my filter issue scope AQL. So what we're going to do here is allow any object type to show up in this field, but we're going to limit and we're going to filter down to a specific attribute. And this attribute we're going to limit to is going to be the reporter. So we're looking for this particular user being the Jira user. And this double equal sign indicates it must be an exact match to the reporter. So this is going to allow us to display only assets where the Jira user or the user matches the reporter. Now we can kind of see that here in our objects. If I scroll down a bit, we should be able to see the Jira user here is Jacob Hughes. So this is how that works. We're looking at that Jira user and matching it to the reporter on that particular incident or Jira work item. And we see that here as well. So that's one of the more common ones we've seen customers struggle with here. Now, the syntax isn't complicated, and I would encourage you to take a look at Atlassian's documentation. They've got a great page on using assets query language. This is how I taught myself how to use the syntax. The page has not just the syntax, but several great examples you can use to better understand the possibilities and potential of what you can limit to in your custom fields. Now, we've got a whole series of videos. We're going to be taking a look at the AQLs to feed other things besides just the custom fields. We'll be doing some pro tips on automations and updating custom fields and doing a lot of great things. So stay tuned. We're looking forward to showing you what great things you can do with Lansweeper data inside of JSM Assets. Until then, have a great day.